You want to know my name? Franklin A. Zahn. My mother and father moved down here in 1920. She's from Newark. And my father worked in a local brick plant right there, like 400 yards from our house, 78 Oliver Avenue, Lawrence Harbor. My mother and father moved down here in 1920. She's from Newark. And my father worked in a local brick plant right there, like 400 yards from our house, Oswald brick plant. That is on the very southern end of Lawrence Harbor. And he left there and he worked for the Lawrence Harbor Waterworks after that, and then he worked in the Cheesequake State Park from the time it started until it was finished. He was a wallpaper and painter, but when there wasn't any painting to do, he was a laborer. My mother didn't work. She was a housekeeper. Her name was Addie Louise, and her maiden name was Huff. My father's name was Charles Zahn, no middle initial, and his mother and father were married in Germany, but his father was born in Switzerland, and his mother and father moved here about 1860 to Newark, New Jersey, because Newark did not have homes, they did not have houses. They were all apartment houses, 3, 4, 5 family houses. And just like if you read the story about Frank Sinatra living in Hoboken, in some of the apartment houses, 2 or 3 apartments had to share a bathroom, which they didn't have that problem. They had a bathroom, and it was a small toilet bowl and a small sink, but no tub. And it was very cramped, and you went from one room to the next room to the next room to the next room. And there was a little postage stamp front yard, a little postage stamp backyard, and there was a big pole, and everybody had their clothesline out to the same pole, and it was poor living. So he mostly moved down here because his friend was moving down here, and his friend was Otto Kengeter, who got to be our first policeman in 1934, and wound up getting to be our first chief of police when they hired other policemen in 1939, because Lawrence Harbor was the first place on the shore where there was a boardwalk. And Lawrence Harbor was very popular, and so was Keansburg, and so was Asbury Park. But Lawrence Harbor was very, very, very popular for a small town. But Lawrence Harbor originally was a golf course, everything from the railroad tracks to the water. And as a young, even up until I was probably 30 years old, I knew a lot of the old timers who lived there, and the one friend of mine who was my friend my whole life, he lived till he was 80, and my truck garage in 34 I bought from him, but he was a caddy at that golf course. His name was John Farrell, and he was born in this town in 1891, and believe it or not, his father was a farmer in Lawrence Harbor, and it was 5 children, and the father and mother sent them all to college in Cooper Union in New York City. And he took a course in stationary steam engines, and upon graduating went into Merchant Marines, and when World War I broke out, his term of enlistment in the Merchant Marines was up, so he went in the U.S. Navy, and was in the Navy during World War II. And when he got out of the Navy after World War I, he got to be the steam engine operator and superintendent of the Oswald Brickyard right near his house where my father worked later on. I had 3 sisters, Ethel, Mildred, and Doris. And I have a younger brother, Carl, who worked for the Township Road Department here for many years before he started his own business. And after he retired, he moved to Florida. But I went to Lawrence Harbor Grammar School, and I went to Madeline High School, and I graduated when I was 17 years old, and I went to work for Fred Mars. Dottie Hauser was his niece. She's part of the Historical Society, and he had a good-sized Mason supply yard on Morristown Road where Nappy Trucking is now. And I worked for him for 3 years, and the Korean War broke out, and I was about to be drafted in the U.S. Army, and I went to see the man in charge of the draft board, who I knew, because at 20 years old I was going to start in the trucking business, but the war came first, because I wanted to sign up in the U.S. Marine Corps, which he let me. Matter of fact, there's another guy my age who used to live in Lawrence Harbor, and his father was one of our first policemen. His name was Richard Tier. He went with me, and we went in the U.S. Marine Corps, and the war got over in July 53, and I got discharged in November 53. And I started the trucking business. I started the groundwork, and I had to wait for the new truck until the 1st of March, 1954. So as of last March, I'm in the trucking business 62 years. I managed to succeed, but I'll tell you one thing. Going in the trucking business is 99% failure. And I broke my butt for 10 years trying to survive. And then in 1964, it started getting better. And I've had some wonderful, wonderful years. And my wife was very supportive, and she's the secretary and treasurer. And I'm 85, going to be 86 very shortly, and she's going to be 84 shortly. She's still the secretary and treasurer. And I'm too old now to operate it. My son is very, very, very good, and he's been operating it now he's been operating it since 2003, when I had quite a few operations. But I'm still active. I'm still active in the bookkeeping. I'm the president, CEO, my wife's secretary and treasurer, but he's my youngest son. I have two sons and two daughters, and my youngest son is the vice president. He's 1/3 owner of the business. He does a very good job running it, and it's still active, and it's on the corner of Route 34 and Farrington Road. It's Zahn Trucking Incorporated, and it's been there since 1968. Before I was there, I was a Mary Brown. She used to be our township clerk, and she was one of the ones that started this historical society. So I was in her service station for a number of years, and before that I was in Fred Mars's yard and parked my trucks in his garage on Morristown Road. After I got in the Marine Corps, he's had a cinder block manufacturing plant where there's a I guess you call it a junkyard there now, automobile junkyard. But I started in business with him, and with one truck I worked for him for 3 years, and then he got slow and I left, and I had to look for customers, which I found customers. And at one time I ran 10 trucks, but that was a little bit of a nightmare for me, and it was very difficult. So I scaled it down to 6, and then I scaled it down to 5, and then I scaled it down to 4. Right now we run 4 or 5 trucks every day. I have authority. Authority means I have a certificate in Washington, D.C. that gives me authority to cross state lines. I can go to any state I want to go to, but I don't go to all the states. We serve New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia. I am a truck driver. I am a truck mechanic. I drove one truck for 3 years before I expanded to 2 and 3, and like I told you, one time I went as high as 10 trucks, but for me, that was a little ridiculous. I don't think big is golden. But yes, I'm a truck driver, tractor and trailer. Matter of fact, I drove one of our trucks till I was 82 years and 8 months old in 2013. It's very, very, very difficult because everybody's looking for something for nothing. I started in business working for Fred Mars. He had a big Mason supply yard. He sold out the Nappy truck, and the Nappy truck is still there. He sold out the Nappy in 53. He built his cinder block plant in 53. He was very, very busy. So for 3 years, driving a one truck myself, he was very busy. In the fall of 1956, after I was with him almost 3 years, he didn't need me anymore, and he wasn't busy, so I went out and I found one account, and it's difficult. It's competitive. It's very competitive. I have a plant in South River that I've been hauling to since 1963. The first owner was wonderful for over 20 years. He paid me every week. The second owner was flaky, so the shipper paid me, and the shipper got stuck. And a big worldwide company, worldwide owns the plant. They think You owe them, and they pay you when they wanna. And they're a wonderful account. And after 28 years, I'm sensible enough to know that they do pay. But I made money, and I have money. I'm not being a bragger. I'm not a poor guy. I don't have millions, but I'm solid. And we have to dump money into our business, and we pay everybody on time. I've had the same accounting firm for 62 years. I've had the same insurance agent and insurance company for 62 years. And when I get an account, I keep them. But accounts go out of business, so you lose them to look for new ones. Now, my son just picked up a new account this year, a man from North Jersey who's a big supply company, and he supplies coal, and he supplies lime to power plants. Would you consider yourself a busy guy if you left Morristown Road and drove to Tom's River and back 4 times in one day? Would you think you'd be busy? Well, this guy getting loaded with a forklift stacked off 800 blocks to a load, 4 loads a day to Tom's River. It's not impossible. I start at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then 8 o'clock at night for peanuts because I wanted to survive. And I built the first house with no mortgage. And I would have stayed there, but the state come along with Green Acre money and forced me and my brother-in-law out. He had a house next door, which was the Stein house. And the Steins lived there from 1923 up until he left. I left in 1990, moved over here. Now, you look at this house on Spring Hill Road. You want to see a nice house someday? I won't even tell you which one it is. You know where Spring Hill Road is? It goes from Cottrell to 34. Right up Spring Hill, turn around and come back. Pick out the nicest house. I'll give you a little tip. It's yellow and has green awnings. And it's a nice big piece of property. And look how it's manicured. I'm not going to tell you what it costs, but you're not dumb. You know what houses cost. I didn't build this house. I hired a contractor. And I didn't have any mortgage. I've never had a mortgage. That doesn't happen too often, does it? But this is what you can do. Now, everyone's different. My brother couldn't do that. My sisters couldn't do that. My mother and father couldn't do that. My wife's the youngest of 10. She had 3 brothers. 2 brothers wouldn't do that. The one brother my age, he didn't do that. He didn't have a mortgage because he bought his mother's house with the agreement he would support her, and he was a good guy. He did support her. And then you knew Roy Gobb. He married Roy Gobb's daughter, and Roy Gobb got to be very, very old, had to go in a nursing home. So Roy Gobb gave them his house. At the same time, the park was forcing us out. So my brother-in-law left his house, which they tore down, and moved up to Roy Gobb's house. And they stayed there till he died, and then his wife moved with her daughter down to Jackson Township. It's all what you want to do. Most people are not ambitious. If you're going to get a normal job of good pay, and you're going to work 40 hours a week, you're never going to have much today with what things cost. I have a few bucks, and I draw a very, very, very small salary from the business. And my son is very, very interested. My oldest son was very dependable and a good driver for 24 years, but he could not run the business. He wasn't interested, didn't want, he couldn't do it. My son is very good. He wants the business, so he's going to get the business. So if he don't like living with me for a few more years, it's too bad because I put up with him for 53 years. My oldest is a girl named Denise, and the next one, his name is Franklin D. I'm Franklin A., and he is a road supervisor for Old Bridge Township. He started there as a laborer, truck driver, equipment operator, and just recently he got appointed to being a foreman, a road supervisor. And my youngest son's name is Mitchell. He's the one running the trucking business. And my youngest child is Lisa. And my oldest one is 63, Frank 60, Mitchell is 53, and my youngest daughter is 50. And they're all happily married and all have children. And my son was not in the Marine Corps, either one of my sons. But if they were, they'd want to make him an officer right away because they didn't pull nothing on me. But no one's going to pull nothing on them neither. And if I was with them and I got in a fight, I know they'd stay right there. If you have children and one's a doctor, and one's an attorney. Keep your mouth shut and open your ears and you'll learn something. Both sons went to Lincoln Tech. The oldest son went to Votech in East Brunswick for electronics. It wasn't electronics. It's house current, industrial current, and car current. But he learned a lot. My youngest son went to Lincoln Tech, and he went to Brookdale, mechanical engineer. He's got intelligence. He can look at. You give him a 2x4 and tell him you're going to put 10,000 pounds on it. No, it's going to break. He can't hold that. It's only going to hold 50 or 60 pounds without bending. You get intelligence. So the intelligence in my family. Now my oldest daughter is an X-ray technician. And my youngest daughter, she started out being a computer programmer, but decided to be a teacher. And she's a teacher teaching challenged children, where you only have one child that you teach, and you need patience. So when you have someone in your family who has intelligence, I talk a lot, but I don't embarrass people, and I listen a lot to learn. I know my wife all my life, or I know her since we're 8 years old. I lived right near her. She lived right by where the entrance of the Cheesecake Park is, and I live at Lawrence Harbor, the 2nd Street, right where the exit of the park is. And I actually knew her all my life, but I didn't pay much attention to her. And then when we went to high school, I again wasn't paying much attention to her. We went to a dance. Now, you ever hear that song, Some Enchanted Evening? Well, that's what happened to me. I was looking across the crowded floor and couldn't believe how pretty this girl was. And all of a sudden I realized she was staring at me while I was staring at her. And she came over, and she's German. She's more German than I am German. She's German, if you know what I mean. And she took me by my tie and she said, "Dance with me." Now, I had girlfriends before that, but I never found the right one. But after that, I never had another girlfriend. A big part of my life was my wife. She's not just a pretty lady. She's got brains. She's got class. Because her mother had class and her grandmother had class. She knows colors. She knows what color cars should be. We have a big house, which you'll see. We each have a closet. Well, the closet is 6 foot by 10 foot, with a rack this side, that side, and that side packed full. This is just casual clothes. I probably have 6 overcoats. I have 22 sport jackets. I have more than 25 pair of pants, counting good dress pants and designer jeans. I have 20 pair of shoes. She has class. She has intelligence. She's a spitfire. Get in an argument with her. See if she backs up. She's not backing up. We've been married 64 years. I got married on Groundhog Day, February the 2nd, 1952. And I don't chase the women, and she don't chase the men, and it's been wonderful. So if I die tomorrow, I'll tell you right today, I'm a lucky guy, I'm a happy guy, but I held up my end. I put the effort in.